Okay, for more on China-E relations, let's bring in Einar Tangen. He is a senior fellow at the Taihe Institute and chairman of Asian Narratives. Einar, welcome back. Thanks very much for taking time to chat with us. Let's look at this overall analysis of the current economic relationship between the EU and China. We heard Giles in his excellent report there kind of lay things out. Try to give me a thumbnail sketch where you think things are right now.
Well, I mean, Europe was obviously shook by what happened in Ukraine. They lost cheap energy. This has had a boomeranging effect. A lot of businesses were not able to compete while remaining in Europe because they didn't have access. They just couldn't be competitive because of costs, and not just energy. Also, there are higher costs in terms of labor. Inflation became a very, very big issue in there. And then you have the kind of political instability as, things get very, very difficult globally, especially export economies are really feeling it. And they're subject to this kind of right-wing idea that somehow if you just close your borders, everything will just be fine.
Yeah, we have seen conservative sectors really pop up in that region. And at the same time, the EU is also accusing China of overcapacity in many important sectors, especially EV. Let's talk about China's response, because you just detailed that the EU is already dealing with labor concerns and high cost as well.
Well, I mean, about 12 years ago, I mean, Europe was laughing at China because they said, "Oh, you're jumping the gun on this EV thing. That's something for the future. It sounds good. It sounds green." China went in all in terms of not subsidies, but encouraging the basic science. And from that, you had the blossoming of all these electronic vehicle companies. There was over 150 of them in 2018. Now it's really whittled down. Competition is very fierce. But in the meantime, China has developed a technological edge. The CATL, the huge battery maker, has really taken the world by storm. Also, having a very, very consumer-focused basis for its industries has led to acceptance of a lot of these cars that China is putting out there. And unlike Tesla, they cater to the clients. They don't say, "Well, we have these models. Which one do you want?" They say, "Well, we have models that will fit every lifestyle." So it's very difficult. Europe is kind of reeling from this losing its edge part, and there's got to be some way in which they come to terms with that.
We also heard Janet Yellen use that term overcapacity in China last week. Now, your thoughts on the EU's efforts to address concerns about market access and fair competition with China. Is this a term that the West, that you believe, perhaps throws around unfairly?
Well, it's the latest phrase that is used as it's a criticism of China, that somehow China's ability to compete is actually a negative. This overcapacity argument is, do Chinese companies produce a lot? Yes. China produces more in manufacturing than the next 9 countries combined. This has come as a kind of gradual shock to the EU and the US, which were the powerhouses for many, many years in terms of manufacturing. Now they're coming to this kind of new reality, but it is not uniform. Olaf Scholz is coming here. He wants a more balanced approach. You certainly get a less balanced approach if you go to Washington. It's not a uniform West, and I think China sees that there's a growing concern in Europe about a Trump presidency, right, and what that means to alliances and things.
Yeah, and also we had a story on just a bit earlier that talked about, no surprise, that China's big success has been with nations that do invest in Belt and Road. We just had the story about a nation pulling out. A lot of Europe has simply stayed away from it. How does the BRI affect where the EU and China will be going?
Well, I don't think, I mean, from Italy's point of view, I talked to some people there and they said, "Oh, listen, BRI is about infrastructure and we don't need infrastructure." So they said we're staying away from it. But the reality is that Washington is often saying that this is a litmus test, whether you stand with us or right against us. And that's it's politics over economics in most of these cases.